Yo, welcome to my very first episode on this channel. This is the Masked Assassin. Today's topic: Ultra Instinct versus Ultra Ego. Are they ruined? The Granola arc seems to be portraying these forms in a very weird light. And it seems as though there is some confusion and or some contradictions when it comes to these forms. I do like them implementing Goku being able to tap into Ultra Instinct, all throughout his forms from base all the way up to Super Saiyan Blue. I thought that was implemented very nicely. However, it's a little strange how they go about portraying his actual Ultra Instinct form. There is an instance in this fight with Granola when he does tap into this form, and he's performing quite well. Actually, you could say he's destroying Granola. There's no contest, and there's up until this one point they executed it very, very weird. One could say Granola tapped him out of the form, and I feel like not too many people read into this the way I did, and I could be wrong, but I understand this form is supposed to react on his own, and certain things just shouldn't happen. But here's the way I read it. So you have Granola disappearing, right? So he's down, he's out, and then all of a sudden, this illusion or this clone just vanishes. Now, I think most people would be in I wouldn't say panicked state, but at least a frantic type, with what's going on. Then you have Vegeta, who shouts to Goku, points out where he is. So now, not only is Goku looking for him, but now he focuses all of his attention. Like, just imagine somebody calling your name while you're in a frantic situation, or imagine somebody like gasping while you're driving, and like you're what, like you're just the control that you think you have. All of a sudden is gone. So he looks away, and at this point, Granola strikes. And I understand his body should have been able to react on his own, but I feel like if you read into this as in, not only is he off guard, but Vegeta is actually the reason why Granola found an opening, right? It wasn't because Goku was weak. I feel like Goku would have been able to fight full power Granola. I don't really feel like that was a stamina issue. I think that Toritaro, in his way of explaining this, is very weird. Where he fought literally. I wouldn't even count that as 5 minutes, especially coming off of the Tournament of Power. Like that didn't last 5 minutes. So you're telling me his stamina can't last 5 minutes versus Granola, but he is able to fight Moro and go in and out of the form, no stamina issues at all? That doesn't really make much sense. So I feel like in an attempt to boost up what was going to come for Vegeta, they attempted to try to nerf, in a sense, Goku at face value. So in order for me to make sense of this, I have to point out that I do feel like it wasn't a nerf. I feel like he was caught off guard. Then we move on to Vegeta. Vegeta is able to ascend to a new level, Ultra Ego, and at first the form is very intriguing, and then it quickly becomes pointless, I would say. In this form, he never demonstrates, or maybe very rarely demonstrates, Hakai at all. Like, he doesn't use Hakai, which is very weird. This is supposed to be a power that embodies Hakai, is it not? Like, I thought that was what they were going for here, and all it seems to be is him taking damage. So I don't really see the point of the form. And when you look at it, for the first half of that manga chapter, when he transforms, he's throwing Granola, he's tossing him around. It's not really much of a fight, but when you look at the damage that he inflicts through that whole entire sequence, is not much damage to Granola, and all it takes is one attack. And if you see Vegeta and how damaged he is, then you see Granola start to go on the offensive, and by the end of his barrage, you kind of see the difference in power. So when people were trying to point out that Vegeta's stronger than Goku in that form, and you look at it, how much of a boost does he get? Like, I feel like they do a horrible job at displaying the power he gains. Yeah, he's able to throw hands, as before he was just running basically from Granola. Now he's able to swap hands. But what else? Goku comes back in his blue form and is able to do better than Vegeta did in his ego form. Why is that? Now, these forms, they were supposed to be like the pinnacle of power. So we thought. Whis mentioned before that there are different stages to Ultra Instinct. So Goku is pretty much a novice when it comes to Ultra Instinct, and there's a lot more levels he needs to obtain before he can say he's a master. Cool. We had an idea that something like this would happen, because of course it needs to be a goal for him to reach. He can't just be there. He's nowhere near Whis' level, so I guess that makes sense. But when you look at the way they portray the form here, there's nothing godlike about how they fight against Granola. It's very pedestrian the way that they portray these forms. And when you look at how the form was portrayed here, as opposed to how it was portrayed versus Jiren, Ultra Instinct, that is, it's almost as if, like, the trope, we already know whenever a form is introduced for the first time, or an attack for the first time, they want to make it pop. It's going to be over exaggerated. They want to wow you. They want to make sure that they sell it, and they did. I believe they did sell this form. However, I feel like they didn't know what to do after this form. So now we have a dilemma where it's like, okay, we've had Super Saiyan Blue for quite some time now. We have this new form. We don't know what to do with it. And how do we scale these characters like a Vegeta or a Gohan or whoever and keep them relevant in comparison to Goku, who clearly at this point is way stronger than anybody else. Clearly, he's at this point, Goku, there's no one in his stratosphere when it comes to power. I know people like to say, Vegeta, this ultra ego, he caught up. It's not even possible. If you really think about it, Goku during the Tournament of Power gained power at an abnormal rate. So he went from being below Jiren to equal to Jiren. Meaning, when he first obtained the Omen form, he was able to swap hands. He was able to go toe-to-toe with Jiren, even if it was only for a few moments. That was something he was unable to do before. Something Vegeta was unable to do. Then he goes into the form again. At this point, he's able to control it a little more. Goes and beats Fuse. He goes and beats Kefla. Then he goes into the form again. At this point, he's able to control the form even more. He's getting more powerful. Then he fights Jiren, who also, arguably, it's still this big thing. Like, was he in Ultra Instinct? Was he not? His aura was very similar, right? He's supposed to be stronger than the gods. Who's to say he didn't have it? That's not proven, yes or no. We don't know yet. But he fights this Jiren, who's supposed to be stronger than a majority. We'll say majority of the gods of destruction. We don't know how many he's stronger than. We just know he's stronger than at least his god of destruction, and quite a few more, because his god of destruction is stronger than other gods of destruction. And we're left to assume that Beerus is probably among the top. That's neither here nor there. He fights Jiren, something that Vegeta could not do. Then they go and they fight Moro, and you can say, yes, Goku and Vegeta without Ultra Instinct are comparable. Then all of a sudden he goes and trains with the Yardrats, and you're telling me this is enough to boost him to Omen level? A training that Goku did back when he only could obtain, a training Goku already went through, obviously a little more advanced, but this is something that we've seen already. We've seen him go through this training. We know he went through this training, obviously in between the Frieza and the Android arc, right? The training he went through, it didn't seem to boost his power all that much. But you're telling me that Vegeta does whatever training Goku went through and a little more, and that was enough to boost his power from where he was at to above Omen level. it doesn't make much sense. That obviously that okay, what does that have to do with his ego form? Well, his ego form should have just the same boost or even more. Like, and what I mean by that is when he transforms, the power boost he gets as compared to the power boost he got when he trained with the Yardratians, it isn't the same. As a matter of fact, you can argue it seems like it was less. When you watch his fight in Blue versus Granola, and then you watch his fight in Ego versus Granola, there isn't much of a difference. You can say, what are you talking about? He was kicking his ass. Well, was he? Like, Granola got up and barely any scratches. By the time that chapter was over, Vegeta's on the ground, you know, his gi's all fucked up, you know, he's all scratched up, he's bleeding, you know. I get he was taking attacks, but the power scaling, the level of power that he was supposed to display, it just wasn't displayed. No Hakai, no nothing. It was everything was basic. So you're telling me that Yardrats can boost his power more than a transformation can boost his power that he was supposed to have obtained through the training of a god of destruction? That his form had potential for about a few panels, and then you quickly started to see like, oh shit, this form sucks. And then it's so bad that they portrayed it to be on par or stronger than Ultra Instinct. But we know that can't be the case because Goku in Blue comes in after saving Vegeta twice and fights Granola and does better than both Ultra Ego Vegeta. And prior to that, I guess people think he did better than when he fought as Ultra Instinct, but a lot of people forget that no, he destroyed Granola when it came to his Ultra Instinct form, right? There was no contest. I don't like the narrative that Granola one-shotted him or one-tapped him and he did better in his blue form. He didn't even get a chance. Like, once again, to reiterate earlier, yeah, he got him when he was distracted. I guess, you know, that's the same trope, but at least this time it wasn't necessarily his fault. You know, it wasn't Granola tricking him and him letting his guard down. Like, I would argue that if Vegeta never said anything, Goku would have been just fine. Vegeta pointing out that Granola was in the ship and Goku looking to see that nothing's in the ship, and at that very point, Granola just happens, at the very moment, I should say, Granola just happens to strike his vital point, right? Now, is it good writing? Well, yes and no. If you think about it realistically in the real world, you can have people that are highly trained and react mainly off of instinct, right? You can have warriors, so to speak, soldiers, right? Professionals, where in an instance where there's a state of panic or a confusion and someone who's supposed to be on your side and you trust lets you know, like, hey, look over there. And when you look, there's nothing there. And at that very moment, you're just as vulnerable as a random pedestrian, right? Now you're off guard and confused. That's not necessarily Goku's fault, right? That's the equivalent of someone. Imagine you're driving your car. Once again, you're driving your car. You're in complete control. You're paying attention, and then someone in the passenger seat happens to be on their phone. And, oh my gosh, right, you know. And now you're like, what? You don't know what's going on. Now, some people can be fine and stay in control, and some people might stomp on the brakes. It's, you know, you never know. Well, I say that to say, like, you're not always, no matter how strong or how focused or whatever, how trained, whatever, like, you know, there's always a chance for distraction to come into place. And I think Granola capitalized. Now, you can say that's bad writing, but it happens. We know this to be true. I don't think we can say that instance is what ruins Ultra Instinct. I think the way they handled, I don't agree. I think that should have lasted a couple more panels, right? Or maybe they should have waited, and maybe he shouldn't have busted out the form so quickly. Because for him to do that, now it's like, okay, well, where is Ultra Instinct? Where does it scale? If Goku himself in blue is able to fight Granola with 2 eyes, right? Two of those, he has both of his Shigarian eyes awakened, right? Shotguns, right? He has both of them awakened. And this is a form. This is with this new awakened eyes is something that Ultra Ego Vegeta he couldn't handle at all, right? He was doing fine up until both of these eyes came into play, and now Super Saiyan Blue Goku just comes in, injured by the way, still not fully healed, and is able to fight and does better. Where does that place Ultra Instinct Goku at? How strong is he? And where does that ultimately place Ultra Ego Goku? I mean Ultra Ego Vegeta. Right? Where does that place Ultra Ego Vegeta now? Is he below Super Saiyan Blue Goku? Can you say can we definitively say that Ultra Ego Vegeta actually gained power? Right? Well, obviously we know he did, but the writing says he didn't. The writing says the boost was insignificant, right? So where do we go now? We have the heaters that are about to come in. Clearly, we know there's going to be some wish that's made. It's going to give gas a whole lot of power, right? What we already know, right? Based off the writing, we now know that Ultra Ego Vegeta, he's not going to be very useful in this fight. And Ultra Instinct Goku, right? Like we know Goku, his body's breaking down. They only have one sensu being. They can break it in half. We know that what's his Namekian's name? I forget his name. That's how insignificant he is. But we know his healing ability isn't capable of healing any of them to regain their strength. Like he's not as strong as Dende, right? So what happens now? Do we see fusion? Right? That's that. The point. The point I'm trying to make is if they're nerfing these forms or they're writing these forms to be this way just so they can introduce Gogeta, they're doing a horrible job. These forms could have been written so much better and displayed so much better, right? I feel like they were rushed and inserted into this arc in the wrong times, and I think it hurts the form, right? How do you go from here? I hear people saying, oh, like Goku, mastered it, and he's constantly mastering. How many times can you master a form? And arguably those critiques are spot on, right? You can say, and in a sense, I don't necessarily think he's ever mastered the form, although they keep saying it. I don't know that he ever did master the form. He's never really done it on purpose until the moral arc. He's never, we know that he mastered the form in the moral arc, right? We know that at will he was able to go into this form in the moral arc. When we say mastered, though, are we implying that there's that once you've mastered something that there's no longer anything to learn? Are we implying that there's never going to be somebody better or stronger than a master, right? If someone is in a specific field and they feel like they've mastered and learned all they can learn, they'll never run into somebody who does what they do better, right? We can always learn. And I think the way that they explained it in the Whis, when Whis was training him after the moral arc, the way that they portrayed his form to be fodder. And I get Whis is supposed to be, damn near, we don't know how strong he is, but he might be one of the strongest angels, right? So we know Goku's not supposed to be as strong as him. But why would you portray his form when you just portrayed it to be this godlike form, right? And now you diminish it to pretty much nothing in the very next literally almost the very next panel after him defeating, after he defeats Moro, and everybody has to help him. Cool, we think it's, this is big defeat, and then the very next arc, in the beginning, very very beginning of the arc, he fights Whis, and it's like, what happened, right? You just got trained by Miris, and you're trying to fight like Whis. Why wouldn't you try to fight like Miris? Why wouldn't you try to fight like you? Why, like it just doesn't make much sense. We know Vegeta said he didn't actually obtain this form while training with Beerus. This was an accidental thing he's done against Granola. So essentially, whatever training he did with Beerus, I guess, prepared his body, right? Hakkaiing logs, as Emish's live would say, Hakkaiing logs is what gave him the ability, or the body, to obtain the form once pushed to that limit against Granola, right? Okay, so he's unable to inflict any significant damage. His Hakkai in his Ultra Ego form is unable to inflict any damage. Why does this form exist? Why are we treating Vegeta continuously like this, right? Like, it seems like everything he gets is pointless at this point. Everything he gets is like, it's just, I guess, to please the fans. But what significance does this bring? I truly feel like they could have gave this form, or a form, something like, I truly feel like they can literally place these characters on the side, right? There's nothing that's stopping them from having these characters who are off the planet and going back and forth between Earth and whatever planet these guys are on. I don't even remember whatever planet they're on. But it could have, to avoid just throwing in these scenes or these instances where it just doesn't make sense. You knock Goku out of Ultra Instinct. You give Vegeta a pointless form. If there's nothing you can think of, how about make the Heaters a bigger clan, right? You had them go to Earth. You had them trick Goku and Vegeta into going to fight Granola, right? What if you leave? What if you have just two more people in the group, or they have connects all across the planet? What if you have people saying like, hey, like, we want to sell this planet too, so we're gonna get these guys off the planet, and while we're off the planet, you're gonna stay here, and you're gonna eliminate all these people, right? You're gonna make this planet you're going to get this planet ready for us to sell. Cool, right? Who knows if they're still in the planet trading business, but something, right? So that gives you a reason to constantly switch back and forth, right? So you don't have to focus too much on the Granola fight, and have to pull things out your ass because you can't figure out how to advance this forward. And now you give someone like Gohan a purpose, right? Now he has to fight and protect the planet alongside Piccolo, alongside Goten and Trunks. You give them a purpose, right? Something serious. But instead, what they constantly give is these bad writing tactics, and like these forced scenarios. And for what reason, we never know why. I'll never understand it. So I can't get mad at the community, or people like Emish, or people get mad at Emish for trash in the manga. It really is bad, right? It really is bad. You see all these fan mangas and these fan animations, and they portray these characters way better, and they give them a purpose, right? You have these fan animes where, like, Goku's not even there, or Vegeta's there, but he's actually doing something. And you have Gohan, you have you have all these people. Goten and Trunks are actually, there's a purpose there. And then Super has all these characters, has no idea what to do with them. They kind of just sit there. You introduce them, and they're gone, right? Why? What is the purpose? And instead, you can protect a form like Ultra Ego, and you can protect a form like Ultra Instinct by giving these characters like Gohan, these characters like Piccolo, Goten, Trunks, right? You give them a purpose. You put them on the screen so you don't have to utilize these forms so frequently. that's something that Dragon Ball Super will either have to figure out or something that they'll have to implement if they plan on having any type of success, right? Like, as far as they're always going to be successful, but eventually the people who carry the franchise, right? People who care, they're all getting older now, right? So you have the people the reason why you have a company that's trying to gain notoriety within a younger generation, but is utilizing the OG generation to push it forward. So you have repetitious scenarios and events, repetitious arcs, repetitious enemies, right? That we've already seen in trying to cater to a younger generation who's kind of just in here. It's like, oh, that's cool. But do they care, right? Not really. I get it. I don't know. At this point, I'm just rambling. At the end of the day, Ultra Instinct, Ultra Ego, I do believe at this point have been, they're questionable, right? Do I believe they're ruined? I wouldn't say ruined. I do think Ultra Ego, they have a lot to do. They have a lot to work on when it comes to that form. I do feel like if they happen to bring it back, they hopefully have an explanation on why. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe the form wasn't as powerful as it should have been because he didn't have access or didn't have knowledge of Hakai when he did it. He was still a novice, and once he learned Hakai, all of a sudden that combined, there's something, right? Ultra Instinct, yeah, I think that they had him transform for no reason other than like just here's this, cool, right? But there was no purpose for it, and therefore they ruined the form in that one panel or those couple of panels just because they had no idea what to do. These forms can be still utilized. I think they can be saved, but if they don't utilize the side characters, they're going to run these forms dry before they even get a chance to prosper. And this is only the third arc since they got the form, and they're already kind of just becoming fodder, right? It's becoming, okay, this is what Super Saiyan, and everyone's stronger than these forms. Just have Vegeta and Goku go off planet and just have them, you just jump back and forth, have something going on simultaneously. That way you don't need to see the form so quick, and maybe, just maybe, you get to preserve your product. But I don't know. That's it for me. This has been the Masked Assassin. Once again, first video. Leave a like, leave your comments. If you liked it, you can leave a like. If you didn't, you leave a dislike. If you didn't like it, you can comment why you didn't like it. Whatever you gotta do, man. Just do something. Don't just leave this video. Do something. If you made it this far, you might as well do something, man. Dislike, like something. All right.